Hey everyone, it's Desiree, and I'm here once again for Scrapping for Less and their Flavor of the Month card kit for May 2019. And this month's kit theme is myths and legends. So it's absolutely adorable. So as always, I'm going to do a reveal and plus 5 cards. So let's do the reveal first. So they come into the box. Of course, I will have the downloads available, or the links to the downloads of both your ingredients and also the sketch sheet that I'm going to use. Here's the cardstock with bubblegum pink, wisteria, sweet corn, powder blue, sour apple, wild cherry, and then of course 2 of the Nina Solar Crest white, 110 pound. So let's look at collection 1. This one's called Nessie. So the papers are by Scrapping for Less, and I love the watercolor patterns. So it's not just like a watercolor paper, it's got that pattern to it. You get a couple craft tags by Desiree. You have some ephemera by Scrapping for Less, your sequin mix by Scrapping for Less, and a small stamp set called Loch Ness Monster by Kindred Stamps. For collection 2, this one's called Pretty Little Rainbows. Of course, I always struggle with the packaging. That's me, not them. That would be me. So you always get an envelope in each of your collections. And the cardstock is Pretty Little Rainbows by Scrapping for Less. And this too I like. So you have a combination of a watercolor feel along with prints. Some great rainbow alphabet stickers by Desiree, a ribbon by Desiree, a stamp set called Prancing Pegasus, exclusively for Scrapping for Less by Sunny Studios, and then also your sequin mix by Scrapping for Less. For collection 3, it's called Fairy's Garden. There's your envelope, and your paper is called Fairy's Garden by Scrapping for Less. Love the colors. You kind of get like a two-tone. So you get, your white backgrounds to make the colors a lot brighter, and then you also get a toned background, which brings them down, almost gives a vintage feel, which, you know me, is great. A sequin mix by Scrapping for Less, some twine by Desiree. Your flowers are also by Desiree as well, and your stamp set is called the Fairies Stamp, exclusively for Scrapping for Less by Avery L. For collection 4, it's called Know Me Home. I think that's what, no? Yes. Know Me Home. So again, your envelope and your papers, these are very vibrant. I really like the colors. You could do a lot with these papers. It's called Know Me Home paper, of course, by Scrapping for Less, and they are double-sided as well. And you even have some cards that you can use to build for your sentiments as well. Now, you can see what I'm brushing away. You actually got a piece of moss by Desiree, so that could be really interesting. Some wooden keys by Desiree, your sequin mix by Scrapping for Less, and then the stamp set is by Stamping Bella, exclusively for Scrapping for Less, called Gnome Stamp, and it is absolutely adorable. Just saying. Now, that's everything that you get in the double dip. Now, if you go into the banana split, you got that gnome die. You get the iridescent glitter. This adorable embossing folder called Fairy Flower by Desiree. Puts a beautiful image right there. And then a stamp set by Scrapping for Less. That's some sentiments. And you also have that book. So again, that bottom portion is if you go into the banana split level, you'll get everything that's here. So let's get started right into card number 1. Now again, as always, to save time, I've pre-cut and I've also pre-stamped and pre-colored my images for the most part. And even still, I'm close to 30 minutes. Sorry. So I'm just going to layer my cardstock. Now the sketch that I'm following right now is the sketch number 2 for this, and I'm making it Again, a sketch gives you inspiration. So I'm keeping this onto a standard A2 size card base, which is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and this will be a top folding card. Where your sketch, you can make it a different size. So I'm kind of just trimming down some of these areas. So I'm just layering my cardstock. I'm using my tape runner to adhere them. And then I've got that final strip and my circle with the most adorable Loch Ness. I did use my alcohol markers to color that image. So now that I've tested and I did some trimming, I'm now going to layer all of my pieces. So this strip here with the scallop border, I am going to use some double-sided foam tape just to give that some dimension on this piece. So I'm just going to look at my placement there, and I'm going to put 2 rows of that and then set that into place. Once that's set, I'm going to go back to my Loch Ness after I trim off my edges using my long shears. And I'm looking at my stamped image. Now, you can tell he's kind of floating there. He's kind of just hanging out there. And that's okay. But I usually I would either pull in, you can pull in a gray colored pencil, or you can pull in a gray Copic marker or alcohol marker, whatever you have, or even a watercolor marker, just to give some color underneath him. But I wanted to make him look like he was in some water. So I pulled out my Tumbled Glass and Mermaid and Lagoon Distress ink. And I'm using, now these are the makeup brushes. I've had these forever. So that's what I'm using, and I'm just taking a little bit of the ink off from the brush before I go directly on. And yes, I'm going right over him. I'm okay. It's almost like I'm brushing a tooth there. I'm okay that the ink is going over, because then that area of the alcohol marker that I colored will actually be a little bit darker. So it will look like he's down in there. So you don't always have to mask if you don't want to, depending upon your image. So that just helped to ground him just a little bit. I'm going to use my tape runner to put this panel onto my standard A2 size card base. And of course I'm having a problem with my tape runner because I realized I was out of tape. Had to refill it. I'm going to put down some glue so that from the sequin packs, or from the sequin pack here, I'm going to add some sequins. And there's some beautiful colors. A nice mixture of some whites, some purples, and some blues, bright blues. So I think it really complements on the papers really well. I'm going to grab my black glaze gel pen, and I want to put the eyes, just make them darker, and you just need to let that dry just for a little bit. And then I'm going to come in with my white gel pen and fill in his little spots. When I did my coloring, I wasn't going around those, so we just went over them because I know I have the white gel pen. If you don't have a white gel pen, you could use a white acrylic pen if you'd like. And that is our card 1 after I added the dot for the eyes. So for card number 2, I cut all of my circles and my scalloped edge. I am going to follow sketch number 3, and I'm going to start layering all of my pieces. I fell in love with that pattern paper. It's almost like a sunset if you look at it one way with mountains and the sky, or if you turn it the other way, it could be the ocean with the sun setting into it. So it was really versatile. So what I'm doing now that I have those layers together of the circle, I'm going to come in with the banners that are going to cross. Now, since I had the banners cut, I needed to use the circle die again just to have that curved edge going along the one side. So once I knew that was set, I was able then to set the first banner in place. Now these next two, I'm going to fishtail these and layer them on top of each other. And then I'm going to, once they're layered, I'm going to use some double-sided foam tape, again, to give them some dimension. Even though we have a lot of layers, I still like that lift that would come off of the card. So I'm just going to finish this fishtail and then just set this banner offset just a little bit. Not too much, but I do want it to sit on top of that other banner. I'm using my grid mat to make sure that they're straight. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to run my die along that top there so that I can continue with that curved edge. And then we will set that in place as well. Now you can see I've already colored, stamped and colored my Pegasus onto my white oval. And you can see I'm kind of, I kind of made him look like he's rearing up, sort of, I guess you can say that, or just on his hind legs a little bit there. I'm going to layer that onto the oval mat that I have as well, and I'm going to set that in place. I'm going to put some double-sided foam tape on the one side, and then I'll use my tape runner for the other side because it will cross over the banners. I do want it to come off of my circle just a little bit onto the scalloped. And I kind of created a sentiment with the sentiments that were in there. And I just chose have a magical birthday. So I wanted to set that in place there. I'm going to mark the edge of that. I didn't want to run that through with my circle, so I was just having fun with my pencil, just drawing my lines to create my fishtail. That is the other way that you can do that. And now I'm going to cut along that curve, and I will set my sentiment right in place. So it's almost like it's another banner that's going to cross over, but then at the same time it's going to hold the sentiment as well, because we were having a lot of layers, but that's okay. Layers are good. So I'm just going to set that in place, making sure that it's going along that edge. And I like the way the magical just perfectly, I did not plan that, just perfectly went along that oval. I'm coming in with my sparkle gel pen, and I'm going through the wings, just adding some highlights there, and then also through the tail and the mane. And I'm looking at that, and there's this white spot. So what I decided to do was just draw a cloud using this sparkle gel pen. So I'm adding, and this sparkle gel pen, it's got like a gray tint to it. It's wonderful sparkle to add lines. It's not like the Nouveau Shimmer or the Spectrum Noir glitter pen. It just creates that line. And you can see from the shadow of my hand, you can see that cloud. And I put one on the other side as well. So it looks like he's up in the air a little bit. So no, I'm not going to make a round card, which you certainly could do. I'm still using a standard A2 size card base. I'm going to use the circle that I used for my design panel, and I'm going to run this through my die machine, but just on the bottom. I didn't want to cut out the circle. I just wanted that bottom edge to have that circle, so that when I place this panel down and you have it folded up, you're going to see the white, but then when you open it, you just see the scalloped on the bottom. It's just something a little bit different to do, but just know you would need a bigger envelope for your card, and you may require more postage when it comes to this card as well. So I just thought it was something different, putting it on a card base like that. I'm going to add some glue drops, and I'm going to add some sequins from the sequin pack that came with this collection. These are confetti sequins, but they're in beautiful pastel colors that match perfectly with the pattern paper. And that is our second card. So for card number 3, I'm sorry, I was grabbing a piece of paper there. So for card number 3, I have these 2 cute fairies. Now you see that I did not color their petal skirts coming off of them. So of course, I just had to use the flowers. So I'm just cutting them, and that's what's going to become their skirt. So I am going to double layer them and make sure that I put a little tiny V so that the bodice of their outfit does show a little bit more. And then I'm going to put the next layer on. So for this one, I'm using the peach and the yellow flower. And then for the second one, I'll have the green as the base, and I will have the yellow coming up on top of that one as well. I did use my alcohol markers to color in my images for this one as well. So far, I did use my alcohol markers for all of my images so far. So for this one, I am using sketch number 1, and I'm just adding that panel that they're sitting on, and you can see that while I stamped them in black, I have the other little items, the little butterflies and the little bees. I have those stamped in a very faint ink. I believe it's the Gina K Warm Glow that I used, because I just wanted those to have a faint look to them. I'm going to use that sentiment, I am very fond of you, from the stamp set from the Banana Split collection. And that is going to go across the floral pattern paper that I have just below my 2 girls. I'm going to use one of my banner dies from my stash because I cannot cut straight. We all know that. If you've seen my previous videos, you know that. And that just fit perfectly in between the 2 designs on the pattern paper. I'm going to use my liquid adhesive to put this down onto my standard A2 size card base as well. I'm going to use the twine that came in this collection. I'm going to double it up, and I'm going to make a bow. And I'm going to set that below the sentiment. And I will use a glue dot to set that in place. I will trim the ends. And then just fluff that up just a little bit. I am going to add some of the sequins using my liquid adhesive just to the center of the dresses. And of course, I felt the need to throw my wax pencil that I'm using to pick up my sequins. For some reason, I'm trying to do everything with one hand. And I actually doubled up on those sequins when it came to the top of their skirts. Because in that collection, there's many sizes of sequins, which is great. So you don't have to put just one layer. You can actually add multiple layers to your sequins. So you can even give them some dimension. So I'm just filling in those areas. I really had fun with the sequins this time. I like sequins. I think they're a simple way and a clean way to embellish a card. So here I'm using sketch number 4, and we are with card number 4. So, okay, the 2 gnomes, absolutely adorable. And I actually used the pattern paper to color them. I kind of followed that color scheme. I thought it was really cute. But I am absolutely in love with these two gnomes and how their hats cross and create a heart. So I used my scallop die from my stash and also my lawn dies from my stash as well. And I'm going to double these up. I did cut down the wood panel from the pattern paper. And now I'm just going to trim up this last grass panel just to make it a little thinner. I want that to sit in the front, but I want that to be raised again to have that dimension, so we have some hills going on here. And what I'm also trying to do is I've set my gnomes up onto a mat, but if you look down on his bottom right hand corner where that little red's coming out, I just went crazy with the red there. So it's actually all smeared. I went out of line and then I tried to use a colorless blender, and again, I'm still learning and playing with my alcohol markers. Yes. So yeah, we just need to hide that. Again, we don't need to start over. I'm just gonna hide it. Now this mat, when I set that into the grass, it's really high. I still can't hide that. I figured, oh, the grass will hide that. So we are just going to real quick grab the scissors and we're just going to cut off that bottom part of the panel. You're not going to see it. You're not going to see that I'm missing the mat. It's okay that the glue's there. We're going to cover all of that too. So we did a lot of covering. But that's okay. Again, we let it go. We keep going. We don't stop. There's always ways to fix, correct, and hide. Let's be honest. I also went into my stash and pulled out all kinds of hearts because, again, the hat with the heart, that was just too precious. And the noses. Can we look at those noses? Oh my goodness, too cute. So I just started adding some of those hearts, wanting to see what they would look like. I used the red to match their outfits. I'm using the sentiment, there's gnome one like you. Thought that was cute. And I'm going to set that where at the base of the grass so that the scalloped will come out from underneath that. Sorry about that, I just hit my mic. And then the rest of it will be the grass. So you've got that little bit coming out the back there so you can see those layers. I'm going to make sure that's centered and secured before I trim that off. And now we'll go back and put those hearts back on. I kept on putting the hearts on and then I would flip the cards so they would fall off. It's okay. It's how we create, right? Gotta have fun when we create. So I just had to have hearts. I want that last heart to actually come off the panel. Going to adhere it onto my standard A2 size card base. And then I'll trim that top off. That's coming off the panel onto the card. I'm going to come in with my Spectrum Noir glitter pen and just add some shimmer to the hearts. And that is our fourth card. So for our fifth, we'll call this a project. I fell in love with these keys. Of course, I have to change them. So I'm going to take the twine that's already on them off. It came off very easily. I grabbed some of my acrylic paints and I'm just going to blend. Now, here's the awesomeness of creating. I didn't want to grab a brush because I didn't have any water on my table, amazingly. So we're just going to use fingers. We all love to finger paint, right? I miss it. I love finger painting. When I was a kid, that's all I did. So we're just going to go into that. Baby wipes were near me. So baby wipes were our friend. So this is what I'm getting right now. So for the one key, we went from blues to a shade of green. And for this other key, we are going to use just shades of pink. So we can have just some beautiful colors. Again, using my fingers, because you would have thought after the first one, I would have, grabbed a brush and some water. Nope. But that's okay. We can have fun. That's why we have a mat. And I'm just trying to blend those colors together just to get a different type of look. Now you could also use, if you have some embellishment mousse, you could use markers. So you can use so many, you can keep them the original wood. You didn't have to add those colors. I just wanted that pop of the brightness of those. So I grabbed one of the tags, I prepped it with my anti-static tool, and I'm using my Gina K white pigment ink, and I'm going to stamp that down that says, you make my story legendary. And it comes from that stamp set in the banana split level. And when I'm going to use some white embossing powder. I'm using my Brutus Monroe Alabaster White. And whenever I'm on a different color, sometimes, usually 9 out of 10, I do like to use white pigment ink to add to the white embossing powder, because in case I made an error, it's covered. The white pigment ink's going to be white. I grabbed the book from the stamp set and I just stamped that down onto some mixed media paper. And I real quick colored, filled in with some alcohol markers, and now I'm going to go around the edge after I fussy cut it with my black marker, just to finish off the edges, just to hide that whiteness on the edges for when I place this. So I'm checking to make sure that the keys are dry. I'm coming in with my vintage photo. Now we knew it had to make an appearance, right? I'm just saying. So I went around the tag just to give that some texture, some depth. And I'm going to place the book on the tag on an angle as well. I grabbed my twine and I'm going to make some long tails with this. So I'm trying to find the end here. And I'm going to double this up, and I'm going to do one of these for each of the keys. So I'm actually reattaching a twine back onto these. I'm going to trim that down, and I'm going to fold that in half, and I'm going to thread it through the whole of the tag, and then loop that around each of, or all of these pieces. I will pull on each of these one by one to make sure that it's tight, and I do squeeze a little bit of glue in there just so that it will hold together. That's a lot of thread going on there, so just to make sure that it stays together, I just put a little bit of glue. I'm gonna real quick grab a Q-tip. Yes, still have not found the brush. And that's okay. A Q-tip works. Look, again, we are creatives. We create wonderful ways to be able to create as well. So I'm just going to use just one of the colors just to color the back, just to hide that brown. I just wanted that shading to be back there. So now I'm going to grab one of the pinks and do the same thing on the other side of the Q-tip. And then just cover the back of that key as well. The acrylic paints that I'm using are the Delusions. The Delusions acrylic paints, I'm sorry. So what I wanted to create, you can create a bookmark. So here's like a book, or it can be for your journals, or anything that you like, because the keys will pop out, so you've got that brightness of the color, but then you also have the neat design that's sitting on the tag as well. I'm coming in and I'm just going to flick in some of the glitter to the center of the book, just to give it some sparkle and shine. So just something a little bit different to make. It doesn't have to be a card when it comes to the Scrapping for Less kit, but these are the projects that we made today, using the May 2019 Scrapping for Less Flavor of the Month card kit. And remember, this month's theme is called, and now I have to look at it again, is actually called Myths and Legends. So I do hope you enjoy it. All of the links to the Scrapping for Less, to their shop, to their blog, to the downloads, and of course the link to the Flavor of the Month kit, because you want to make sure that you get yours before this one goes, will all be linked down below. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave those down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I want to thank you so much for stopping by and watching today's video. If you haven't already, I would love for you to subscribe. Make sure you ring that bell because you don't want to miss the next video. It's always an adventure. I hope everyone's having a great day. Remember, take care, but always remember what's most important. Always be creative.